Hi everyone, I'm Dean McRae. I'm your Liberal Democratic candidate for the Riverina in the upcoming federal election, challenging Nationals, former Deputy Prime Minister Michael McCormack for his seat at the table. You may or may not be familiar with me. I presume if you're tuning in, you've got some idea what I'm all about and how I rock and roll in life. And generally speaking, I'm a libertarian and I believe in more freedom and less government. So welcome aboard for the evening. It's only going to be short and sweet, as the Riverina Rebellion is all about just policy focused type deals. And that's what I'm going to very briefly point you in the direction of some of our policies. I had a fantastic weekend at Wagga. I was invited to speak at a Reclaim the Line rally. Again, nice and brief. I'm taking a lot of leaves out of Tim Quilty, our MLC from Northern Victoria's book, and keeping things brief for this setup. So once again, welcome aboard. If you're not sure how the LDP works, we're not affiliated with the Liberal Party. In fact, we're going to court with them on February the 15th as they're trying to steal our name from us. Apparently the word Liberal is a very important word to the Liberal Party, who show no Liberal values whatsoever anymore, which is a bit sad. And if they did even half what they claimed, we wouldn't need to be involved in politics. But we know they don't protect Australia anymore. We know they don't stand for anything liberal. And obviously, if you follow American politics, you would know that liberal means the complete opposite over there as to what it does here. And it's all very confusing. And it's very important to know that the Liberal Democrats are not at all affiliated with the Liberals of America, and nor are we really Conservatives of Australia. We're a libertarian and a classical Liberal Party, and that's the important part for us. So if you are interested in what we've been doing, what we've been talking about, the Reclaim the Line rally this weekend was all about protecting kids from jabs. I think that's a more than reasonable position to take. I certainly don't endorse children being used as medical guinea pigs. And as far as adults choosing to be involved in said experiments, said medical treatments, I believe every adult should be free to choose, and I believe that every adult that participates in doing so should be doing it non-coerced. We're not allowed to have sex with people via coercion. We have to usually, entice them via our charm, wit, and in my case, incredibly poor looks. But I do have a sense of humour, and I think in this political climate it is important that we do try to maintain that, because it is very, very easy to get emotional and caught up with some really challenging stuff. Now, for the newbies to the thing, next week I've booked a guest. I'm going to start advertising that through the week. I did want to touch on the Novak Djokovic stuff. It's not really a policy of ours, but obviously the freedom of choice is. We have a pretty thorough border policy in amongst the LDP policies. It's not one of our Freedom Manifesto issues at the moment, but we believe that people should be free to come and go as long as they respect our laws and the following. I guess where the grey area is regarding the Novak Djokovic stuff at the moment is there are people who are saying that he didn't respect our laws, despite the fact that the initial judge said, what more could this man have done to have complied with what I consider to be mostly nonsensical rules. Anyway, so look, I'm pretty disappointed to see him go. I'm not a tennis fan by nature. I wasn't going to watch the Australian Open before. I certainly won't be watching it now, but I certainly think that, as usual, our official leaders have screwed it to high heaven and done a piss poor job once again of managing this. And I do think they're trying to make an example out of this guy, purely on the basis of, one, they don't like his position. I think Alex Hawke's statement or comment in the paperwork was that he didn't want Novak stirring up anti-vax sentiment or going against the government line, which, in my ever so humble opinion, means that if you disagree with the status quo and the powers that be, we will start cancelling you, we will start blocking you, we will start arresting you and putting you in hotel quarantines, despite the fact that you're doing your very best to comply with nonsense. So, look, as far as the Novak Djokovic stuff says, I'm standing in great disappointment that our Open tennis tournament doesn't get to have the best player in the world. Now, again, I'm not a big tennis fan, but if we are going to run sporting events, it makes sense to want the best of the best. Otherwise, they might as well go down to the local Wagga tennis club and watch those guys have a hit around. Probably far cheaper to get tickets, and apparently the same quality of player is eligible. And that's no disrespect to anyone playing tennis anymore. I'm sure you enjoy yourselves. Now, our Freedom Manifesto, I always want our followers and supporters to focus on Freedom Manifesto. That's what this election, that's Liberal Democrats' plan to save Australia. I really, really enjoyed this document. I think our policy team has done a marvellous job on it. Freedom from COVID alarmism is number one on that list. So no more Covidmania. It's ridiculous. Now, I had a family member pass away today, and I don't want sympathy. That's life. That's facts. It was, it's very sad. And yes, he did have COVID. He also had many underlying medical conditions, and he was an elderly gentleman. So we need to be realistic about the living with COVID. We need to be realistic about moving on, going through life with this virus. If you want to wear a mask, wear a mask. Don't want to wear a mask, don't. Want to isolate, fill your boots, stay at home. I'm more than happy for you to make that decision. You're a big human. You can do that. As far as the vaccination status of people, and again, I'm not a medical doctor, all I can say as far as our policy on that is it should be your choice. Nobody should be forced or coerced into having a medical procedure that they do not wish to have. And to be fair, it's nobody's business whether you're vaccinated or not vaccinated, or whether you're pro-Trump, anti-Trump, whether you like marshmallows over a cooked fire. It's really nobody's business but your own. So we as Liberal Democrats and as a Libertarian, as a man who's standing for your rights and freedoms at this federal election, please remember that these things are your choices. You're entitled to make these choices for yourselves, and you're entitled to make these choices on behalf of your family. I believe the parents should always have best interests of their children, generally speaking, have best interests of their children at heart, and as such, a far better place to be making medical choices for their children than any politicians. Mr. McCormack recently did a video talking about how he recommends everyone get a booster shot. The guy's a journo. He worked in newspapers and printing. He's got no business giving any medical advice, none whatsoever. My advice to you is to stick to politics. Not that you're very good at it. Okay, no, that's a lie. You're very good at politics. You're not very good at leading and looking after Australians, which is what you purport to do. So, in a quick recap, I was pretty disappointed to see politicians out there upselling boosters and nonsense. I mean, we know they've all been doing it, but I don't take medical advice from politicians. I wouldn't expect you to take medical advice from me. I would take medical advice from a doctor I trust. So I suggest you trust your doctor. If you trust your doctor, go down that path. If you don't trust your doctor, find one you do trust, or do your own homework, because this is certainly getting out of hand. And I don't endorse children being used in this trial in any way, shape or form. But at the end of the day, it should be the parents' choice, nobody else's. Recall elections. We're going to have a big session on recall elections. I've got a very special guest lined up for 2 weeks' time. And we're going to have a great discussion. And our other 10 key policies, I'll run through them very quickly. Debt and deficit, we think that if the government's going to be stealing money from you in taxes, the very least they can do is be really responsible with it. That's important. Low flat taxes. Anybody in small business, anybody wants more money in their pocket at the end of the month, or more month at the end of their money, as the saying goes. We want to get those taxes as low and as sharp as possible so people can get back out, get working. You've got more money in your pockets because, again, I believe you as a consenting Australian adult have far better idea what you need monetarily and how to spend it and what's of value to you than any clown in Canberra or any of the other political clubs getting around, including myself. I don't purport to give you financial advice. I just want to make sure you've got more money to make your own decisions with. Voluntary superannuation, again, that means more money in your pocket on a day-to-day basis or a week-to-week basis as you get paid. The argument there is about whether or not people will have retirements and savings at the end of their lives. I mean, I guess that's what the pension's for, but I also think at the end of the day, it's got to be your choice. Will some people make bad decisions? Sure. We're all humans. We're all capable of bad decisions. I've made some fantastically bad decisions. Made a few good ones too, thankfully. But I do think at the end of the day, consenting adults have to have responsibility for their own decisions. Small business. the LDP loves small business. We don't just say it. We're not like, you know, the big parties. We love small business. We want to hand money to small businesses. We don't want to just roll money. We want to get out of the way so small businesses can operate. Businesses know how to do what they want to do. They know how to do it better than anybody else, generally speaking. And if there are flaws, well, they pay the ultimate price for that. The problem politicians and bureaucrats trying to do this is they don't pay any price for their performance. They can be miserable and useless. And as long as we keep voting them in, they stay there. They keep their $200,000 a year plus pensions and bonuses and nonsense, all to take the Australian people for a ride. And I can't tolerate that. Does my head in. Cheap and reliable energy. I think whatever is the cheapest, most reliable, most effective overall energy should be on the table. Am I pro-nuclear? I think nuclear should be in the discussion. Bet your backside. I also think solar can be in the discussion. Electric can be in the discussion. I've got no problem with coal whatsoever. And the no net zero. LDP stands for no net zero. This chasing a zero carbon footprint and all the rest of it. It's just malarkey, and it has no balance of common sense whatsoever. They'll have us all living in caves and in the dark, and it'll be a disaster. We all know that. Anybody with any brains knows that. And we're busy crapping on about whether or not we should be using. We're allowed to have nuclear submarines, but we're not allowed to use the power of nuclear. And GE, and I'm not advocating for a mega corporation, but they certainly have the power and the money to have at least tried this. And they've got these PRISM systems. I recommend anybody interested in that as a concept, check it out. I was massively impressed. It's not like Chernobyl like they make out. Decentralised education is our 8th point in the Freedom Manifesto. We think, again, parents, not politicians, should be making educational decisions for their children, be that homeschooling, be that which school locally you want to go to, be it high schools, be it technical colleges. You know your kids better than anybody else does, and we think that you should have final say and more direction and more control of the education of your children. Certainly with all this other stuff going on, it's more important than ever that parents have more access and more control in how their children are educated. Free speech, that's a no-brainer. If you know me, you know I'm all about free speech. Say what you want. Offence is taken, not given. I can't choose to offend you, but you can choose to be a sook. That's a fact of life. And number 10 in the Freedom Manifesto, and we're going to cover it with a couple of guests as well, is freedom from surveillance. We're not obligated to be tracked and monitored. QR codes are a disaster and have no business in a free society. And there's plenty of others. So, mate, everybody check out the Freedom Manifesto, ldp.org.au. Check out my candidates page. Check out my Twitters and all the Facebooks and, you know, all that sort of stuff. I've got one of everything. And I'd love to see you all in there, chat, ask questions. I'm an open book. Ring me up, you know, drive me nuts. When you put your head on the chopping block for these sort of federal elections and any election, really, you are opening yourself up for the public. I don't have any secrets. All my skeletons are on the table. I've done plenty of wild stuff. I'm not the perfect guy, and I'll never purport to be, but that's where I'm different to your other politicians is I'm quite happy to be honest about my life and the things that I've got up to, good, bad, and ugly. So tune in. Thanks for tuning in. This time, and I will have a very special guest. So I'll be advertising who's coming on. It'll be one of our LDP candidates, and they're looking forward to joining you and joining us and making a few really cool announcements, and we'll go into some details on some policy. Thanks so much, guys. Tune into the Riverina Rebellion and check out LDP, Dean McRae, for the Riverina in the upcoming federal election. Thanks so much, guys. Have a great day.